In today's news video, we are going to be discussing Jim Carrey. And the real question is he a human or is he something else that we really don't know about? I'm Andrew Mycol, and let's get started with today's episode of AndrewMycolNews. Hello Internet, it's Andrew Mycol, and welcome to today's episode of AndrewMycolNews. And in today's video, we're going to be discussing Jim Carrey. Human or animal human? So, if you're into news videos, make sure you leave a like and let's get into today's episode. Alright, so one of the most decorated, most beloved actors of all time, it's pretty much Jim Carrey. You know, when you see a kid-style movie or something that's like, something that has animals with it, something that's like more of a comedy role to it, something that's a movie that should not be taken seriously at all. And Jim Carrey is one of those comedians like Will Ferrell or Stephen Carell, where he's got this feel about himself where he knows he's not a serious actor. He knows he doesn't play a whole lot of dramas and he shouldn't do it. And it just feels like all the movies he does, they're bangers left and right. But one of the things people have been noticing, especially on one of the Discord servers that I've been in, which you can see on the thumbnail, I'll post that picture right here. And so, as you can see here, most of these people, they've seen Ace Ventura, and they see most of these penguin movies where Jim Carrey is in there, and he basically is one of the animal people, you know, and that one of the big scenes in Ace Ventura is when he comes home and he just whistles with his mouth, and all the animals you can think of came into his little apartment and was around him. But one thing that a lot of people have been questioning is there's a lot of things Jim Carrey does that doesn't exactly look human-like. And there's one little thumbnail. This was basically when Jim Carrey was on the greatly awarded Jimmy Kimmel show, where he did this sign like a triangle and he put his mouth and tongue on it. But one thing for sure about Jim Carrey is that he doesn't take anything really seriously. Like, on one episode of the E where there was like I don't know what kind of clothing thing where a lot of people do fashion, and he really basically went in and said, well, who are the idols around here? Who cares about these people around here? You're not real, I'm not real, no one's real. And he says, and a lot of things that people think about him is that he's not really human, but the thing is, I don't think the question is Jim Carrey human? I think the real question is Jim Carrey basically has this thing with him where he, I guess, went into depression one time, from what it seems, and there's a lot of self-reflection and a lot of self-discovery with Jim Carrey. Like, every time he does something, he's always discovering something about himself, and it's very unique and very interesting to see what he brings to the table every time he goes somewhere popular or somewhere that's like a media or a meta place with a lot of people watching. And it's very, very interesting because Jim Carrey, when he's in the movies, he has his character and he nails it like every time, because he feels like that's part of him. That's part of who he really is. And he talked about this on one of the motivational videos you'll see floating around on YouTube. He talks about how sometimes if he's not playing character, it's like people don't think he's real, or he doesn't exactly believe in himself that he is indeed real. And so I figure that's very interesting about him, and that's a point that I want to make, is that it's not that Jim Carrey is not human, it's just the fact that he really self-discovers and he really self-reflects on himself and who he really is outside of an actor and outside of the personality and outside of the person that people have really liked him to be. And so the thing about that is, I don't necessarily think that's something that could bring up animal characteristics, but sometimes whenever he's walking, or sometimes whenever he grows out his beard or something, he'll do that to make people laugh and make people smile and feel great about themselves. But it's a very interesting topic about whether or not Jim Carrey really is human, or does he have one of these traits where he can, you know, do extraordinary things. But I think what he does is he really gets into character on what he's doing. He's really getting into his personality, just like wrestling, just like professional wrestling. If you have not watched any professional wrestling in a while, you'll see back in the good old days, back in like the early 2000s, people always had personalities, and people always had different roles that they would portray when they were in the ring and when they were around the locker room. They would have this persona about themselves, but at the end of the day, they realized they weren't that character anymore. They realized that that person that people always knew them to be is not real anymore. They realized that kayfabe is literally dead. And it portrays to Jim Carrey in his situation. In Ace Ventura, he's a guy that can really control animals, that can get them to come out of hiding. Jim Carrey is another person who can control penguins to come to where he is. Jim Carrey is one of the people that can literally control an audience if he wants to, because he has his character and personalities all put down to the T. And so one thing that I would like to point out is that, yes, sometimes I believe Jim Carrey has something special about him, but I don't think it's anything to not qualify him as a human. I just believe he has something nailed down to the T to where he can control himself and he can control his environment to the point to where people can say Jim Carrey is one of the best actors because he has one of these roles and he's not afraid to get uncomfortable. And he's always able to do different kinds of roles. And that's what I think people like about him, is that no matter where you are, one of the main people you'll realize is a comedian, but also a guy who can really nail down his personality and his roles is Jim Carrey. And so I think the real question is Jim Carrey human, or is he more than a human? Is he extraordinary? The answer is he is a human, but he has this feel to where he can control people based on how he can control his character and how he can control his personality. So that's my take on the whole Jim Carrey human, not human thing. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's news episode. And if you did, make sure you leave a like. And tonight is going to be the first time I do a podcast-related live stream on Twitch at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. Twitch.tv/AndrewMycol. And until next time, I'm Andrew Mycol, and I'll see you guys tomorrow. Thumbs up. Or unless you're coming tonight on Twitch. Thumbs up.